my name is Zita Harkara, and I'm here today with Michael Garber. And
Mm,
he is a wonderful, shining, beautiful person
mm.
that is, first of all, co founder of New Earth Ascending Ministries. I wanted to make sure I got it
You
right,
got it right. You're
which is
good.
a faith-based nonprofit organization that is inclusive of all faiths and help to give spiritual guidance, right, to people that didn't find themselves probably in a place. We can talk more about it later.
Mm,
You are also an author, which is something we really want to talk about. You just
mm.
published second edition of Illuminated Codex.
Illumination Codex. Yeah.
Illumination Codex, sorry, um, which I'm reading, and it's very exciting. So much information, 800 pages. I was like, wow, Michael, nice.
It's a
And
big
also,
topic. Yeah.
huh?
It's a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
topic, multifaceted. Yeah.
yeah. You've got a lot on your mind to share. Yeah, and at the last, and maybe the most, you are quantum healing hypnotherapist.
Mhm.
But you have discovered or founded your own system, which is called Illuminated Quantum Healing. So let's start. Where do we want to start? I want to start with the book. How about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
With your book that you wrote, and it's a second edition. I do remember that.
Yes.
I remember when you published the first one, and now it is on Kindle, so I got it, so everybody can get it.
Hmm.
It's beautiful. It's purple, and I love how it's designed.
Mm.
What planted the seed for you to write this book? And then, how did it grow, this whole process?
What a powerful question to evoke. Um, so I'll share. It's a really multidimensional answer. I had originally learned how to do quantum healing hypnosis through the work of Dolores Cannon, quantum healing hypnosis technique, QHHT. And it was right at the beginning of my journey of being a new practitioner. And um, I was working with a client. There's a lot around the story of how we met in terms of it being synchronous. I walked into her crystal store. She had a metaphysical crystal shop, and we just had this very deep um, recognition of one another. And we talked very briefly, and she had felt that she should have a session with me. And so we set up some time to have a session, and it was late at night. Some Dolores's way of doing it, and also similar to how we do it, is like 5 hours, 6 hours. The sessions can really go a really long time, and we decided to start very, very late. And once I got there, I had felt, and this often happens right before a big growth experience happens, where I feel shy, or I get these thoughts that are like, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. And I start making excuses for myself. I think it's my ego that's afraid to expand. So it comes up with some ideas. And
By the way,
so,
that happens to me too, and I notice now I'm like, when I feel that way, uh-oh, something new and exciting is actually going to move and open
yeah.
up for me. Yeah.
So we met for this session, and I felt like it was kind of late. And she kind of was like, well, if you feel like maybe we could do it. And we ended up doing the session. And I'm super thankful that I did, because she ended up being a somnambulistic client. And what that means, from my understanding and my training, was that she goes so deep into trance that her personality, the client's personality, really steps aside. And we speak directly with the aspects, those lifetimes that the client is experiencing. They'll have the memory, they'll have the language, they'll even have the limitations of that being had at that exact time. So this was the first time, I think, that I had experienced a client like this. And often when we bring those clients up from hypnosis, they don't recall anything that's happened. It's like they just kind of went to sleep and were speaking with not only these lifetimes, but we ask to speak with their higher consciousness. And that can go by many names, but this wealth of information, the there's no end to the knowledge that can come through in these sessions, as you know, because I know you're also doing this work. And so I was really shocked the whole time that I was doing this session, because it was very clear to me that I was having an experience that was beyond the mundane experience. I was having authentic, mystical experience, authentic connection with um, consciousness that was beyond this earth plane. So it was very, very like charged for me, and I was really nervous. I could almost barely think of what questions to ask next because it was so big. Anyway,
Mm.
towards the end, at the end of that, I usually ask, sometimes I ask with a client's higher self, well, why did this client come to me? What's the purpose of this session? And no joke, she turns her head to me in a trance, completely out, and her higher self says, we wanted to change your mind.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, the focus was directed towards me, and I was not prepared for that. And I was like, well, what do you mean? They said, well, you have very strong faith, but sometimes you doubt. And so we needed to change your mind. So they're sharing with me that they needed to shake me up a bit, to shake up my belief systems. They went on to tell me, I say they because it's a collective consciousness that works through when we're working through that. A very high frequency, loving consciousness speaks through the clients. And they went on to tell me about different things that happened in my life and why I needed to go through those experiences to mature, to be able to do what I came to do. Um, and then she described a bird, one of my guides coming forward. She described him as a tall bird man, and then spelled his name backwards and spelled the name Thoth. So if anyone knows of Thoth, he's the bringer of language to the Egyptian people. He is the keeper of records and the master scribe. So I immediately was like, my hair was standing up, and he went on to tell me that I needed to start writing and write everything that comes to me, and that it was very important that I put together this book. And it's a big part of my contract in this life, was to put together this book to help guide humanity during the times of great transformation, which we're now in. Um, and I didn't really know what that meant, and it felt so big, and my head was spinning, and I didn't really know. And he was correct. Once I started writing, more information came, more synchronicities, more avenues of information and knowledge. Clients, as they were coming, were giving me a very clear line of progression through cosmic time and planetary time, galactic time. I mean, so many different events are put into this book. So the reason for this book, the question is that not only was it, I love language, I love reading, I love books so much, and I really feel called to offer anything that can support all of us as we awaken in our consciousness and as we expand at such a fast rate. So I wanted to give something that is going to help ground and also really focus our efforts here in the Earth School. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's
Oh, that's beautiful. So thought came to you.
and he's poked his head in a few times at different experiences to kind of be like, it's really interesting. I started to have this different type of relationship happening, because I had my earth friends, I had my physical friends, I had this incredible partner, um, and then I had these other friends that I couldn't feel, can't see, can't touch, I can't even hear in my own. But these relationships started to emerge from many, many different clients, and
Mm-hmm.
guide me with such love and precision. It's been quite a beautiful ride. It's been about 6 years, I'd say now, or something like that, since I've started doing this work. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. What? So how long did you write the book for? How long did that take?
that whole time,
Oh,
I
yeah. Oh,
basically
wow.
started writing a few days after that, or thinking into like, what would a book be about in
Mm-hmm.
regards to spiritual healing, like what needs, and also what would make it different than all the other books that are out there. And so it came in waves, it came in stages. A great chunk of the book is hypnosis sessions, transcripts from I think there's probably 60 sessions in there, 60 different clients with
Oh, wow.
lots. Yeah, there's lots and lots in there. But then also the different texts and books that I was guided to inform um, and support what was coming through the clients.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'd work really focused for a few weeks and really pour myself into it, 10, 12 hours a day, not including the dreaming that I'm doing to bring it in. And then I'd take weeks off, months off, because then life experience would come in. I'm super thankful for that too, because then I got to embody the information. I got to really put it to use and to also let my mind think about other things. And then another period would come in of focus and crafting. So yeah,
Yeah,
the whole time.
yeah. So, which books do you feel like were helping you in this process?
Mm.
I think you mentioned a few in your post, and I was like,
Hmm.
these are really interesting.
Mm.
Mm.
Thanks.
Or
Yeah,
maybe in general in life, maybe not just for this book, but in general.
yeah. Well, I would say that books in general have been one of my biggest treats in my life, and some of my best friends have been these books. And there's so much love that I have just for the preservation of knowledge that's been passed down orally and then also through the text throughout the many traditions. And I've really found some incredible gems. Some contemporary, they've been written more modern in the modern times, and then some are very old. I would say in terms of the old ones, I would say like Pistis Sophia. It's a Coptic Gnostic text. It gives an account of Jesus post resurrection in his uh, reconciled body of light, in the Christ body of light, giving a testimony, giving higher teachings to his closest disciples about the higher planes and the higher levels of ascension beyond the physical body. And this book was translated and commentary was given by a man named J.J. Hurtak, who also received a book that he put out. It's probably been 40 years, 30 years now, something like that, called The Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge.
Mm.
This book is incredible. This book merges science and spirituality. It's using Kabbalah, it's using some Tibetan Buddhism. There's lots of powerful information in there. I would say from that book, I might have absorbed 20% of what actually is written in that book, just because it's such high level information. Um, and more recently, I've really fallen in love with this non-dual Vedanta teacher named Swami Sarvapriyananda, who has done some commentary on two texts that I'm really loving. Drigdrishya Viveka, which is this, it's discerning between the seer and the seen to really find the true self within your moment to moment experience. And I find actually these, what I love about Vedanta, and specifically Advaita Vedanta, the non dual Vedanta, is this precision and steps to have direct experience in your body right now, right here, versus some other faith-based texts that are inviting a person to believe in something that they may not necessarily be able to touch or experience. And what I love about Dridrishya Viveka and Aparoksha Anubhuti, which I believe translates to basically something like direct experience of the knowledge of self, or something like this, is that they really give you some tasks to do. I would say tasks, some meditations, if you want to call it that, so that one can have that experience right here. We don't have to wait till we get to heaven to have it, to have that experience of liberation and unity with the divine. But through these texts, they give you steps and stages so that you can experience it here and now. And I
Mm.
love that. I find that very valuable, especially for people that have religious wounding, that have um, hesitation. Maybe they've been led astray before and they don't want to just believe in something blindly, or people that are maybe more analytical, that are really, they need to see the math and the numbers. So for somebody like that to have a direct experience is much more powerful than trying to have a faith or a belief system outside of themselves. So I
Yeah.
really love those books. Those are some of my favorite.
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm feeling. This is very important work. Lots of like, you could say that the way religion is structured now, it has failed people. It has failed many people, and also
Mm,
turned many people
mhm,
sour from religion or spirituality. And
mhm,
so people, uh, or we are all turning into materialism instead, and putting our trust in
mhm, mhm, mhm,
God, some earthly gods, but not realizing
mhm, mhm,
how real
mhm.
this
Well,
spirituality is to us.
mhm,
So yeah,
mhm,
yeah, I think the work you're doing is amazing, and it's something that um, I try to do too, with like reading Japji and just seeing how is spirituality alive right now. Your soul is here right now. Um, so I'm glad that
mhm,
these
mhm,
people, that books and your book, that you are bringing it up to present moment. But you were
mm.
going to say
Thank you so
something.
much. How is the signal doing, by the way? How is the signal going? Are you feeling like we have a good signal right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see me well? Good. Okay. And you can hear me well?
Yes. 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 I think
Wonderful.
like once you got a
So,
little slower.
so, okay, cool. Well, I can speak a little bit to the purpose of religion or the evolutionary significance of these different forms of worship. You're a little frozen for me.
Yeah.
Can you still? Okay, you're still there. Good. Okay.
I'm here. Yes.
Um, so when I think of these different religions as different schools of consciousness, which is on surface level that's pretty obvious, but for each soul that comes in, they before we come in, we are sitting with our guides, with the divine, if you will, and we come up with what are the conditions, what are the experiences that my physical life needs to contain so that I can move even more closely towards realizing myself. Because I look at Earth as being a school for God self realization, whatever you want to call it, whether it's something outside or something within. So I look at these religions and different family situations, different social conditions as being catalysts for some type of change, some type of growth. So So somebody might be born an Orthodox Jew in one life to have a certain type of experience there. And maybe in the next life, they're born as an atheist. Maybe they're born in the next life as some type of Christian missionary. We're born into so many different experiences so that we can. One of the things that, like Jesus says, is that my Father's house has many mansions. And what I believe that he meant by that is that there's many different rooms, different universes, different realms of thought. There's infinite um, spaces that we can move into to experience God. Sometimes that might be in a very exalted way of living as a devotee in an ashram for an entire life, but it could also be another room within that mansion could be absolute hatred towards God,
Mm.
absolute condemnation, and that is just as loved and just as blessed of an experience as the one where someone was sitting in a monastery. Just different conditions are brought up, different ways to feel oneself and to develop the mind, develop the consciousness so that it can move, hopefully. I believe once we're human beings, we have this capacity to have full realization, full liberation, but often it takes many, many lifetimes because we have this spiritual ignorance going on that all of us have that we've forgotten. So we can get caught in little traps here and there and kind of digress a little bit. But I believe ultimately everything, all conditions, even the most dark, shadowy, painful, especially the most painful situations on the planet, are meant to be fuel for consciousness expansion if we choose to do so. Like you're saying, either turn towards the deeper truth that's being revealed or focus on the material reality. There's We always have that choice of anchoring ourselves in even more to trying to think this is real,
Mm-hmm.
or coming into the deeper reality that lives within each and every one of us.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying like everything is accepted, no matter who you are, what stage in life you are just the way you should be.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, a lot of times those moments where we feel like we have been cast out from God, where we feel so far from the divine, where we might feel so impure or so guilty or feeling such deep shame, like a fire burning within us. In fact, those times we're actually traveling even faster towards our realization because there's such deep, potent information that's coming up at that point. I really believe that there's not one single thing in all of creation that is separate from the divine source, not a single thing. So, and it really just depends on the way that somebody sees reality. If they're thinking that everything is separate beings versus feeling that all is God, and then there's the self, or knowing that ultimately all of this is our self. Everything is happening within us, that one light of consciousness. So there's this different progression and different ways of looking at it. And I would say these ideas of feeling cast out or shame or rejected in some way, or that we've done something wrong, is a really valuable stage to move through as we are beginning to move our consciousness into a non-dual perspective where we can really see the face of God in every situation, no matter whether it's blessed or no matter whether it's holy or completely profane. That is still that one light of consciousness shining forth to all of us, and we are that light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What would you say to people who are basically don't see any point in looking at
Mm.
spirituality or don't want to even go there? Yeah, find it as useless. Not even that they feel something bad within themselves, they just are very happy, you know. I mean, maybe there's nothing really to say to those people, but.
Well, I would say for all of us, it's the same answer, is to really look at what's happening within our inner space right now. We don't have to call it spirituality. We don't have to call it a practice or a lineage or anything, but really spending time. We spend most of our life focusing on the external experience and very little time spent looking at the internal experience. And the internal experience, as Christ would say, the kingdom of heaven is in there. Ev- the Many planes, much wisdom, much insight is available to those who are taking the time to turn in and investigate. And of course, at first, there might be things like shame and guilt and fear and all that stuff there. But look deeper. What is watching all of that experience come up? And how often do you identify with that part that is the pure awareness versus the thoughts or the attitudes or the roles that the physical body plays, or its social reputation and all that kind of stuff? Let's start, maybe if we want to, start going in to notice those very, very subtle parts within our experience. And that's what I
Mhm.
would say to people that don't want anything to do with spirituality. I totally get it. And investigate yourself.
Right. Yes. So start with yourself. Oh, that's a beautiful answer. Which kind of brings me to um, what is your kind of self reflection or practice that you do? Because
Mm,
that's something we, no matter what, right? We have to do this to kind of bring ourselves always back to center,
mm,
back to our soul, and back to our
mhm,
connection with
mhm,
everything else.
mhm. It's a really great question because it's shifting a lot. I can share that what has been very helpful in my life is having a strong physical asana practice, dance practice, something for my physical body. So when I'm thinking of self-care, I'm looking at the different koshas, the different levels of our being, and what does each kosha need throughout the day. So what does my physical body need? What does my life force body need? What do my what are how are my emotions and desires being utilized? What do they need? My mind, my intellect, and am I getting enough rest? Am I turning myself off a little bit and getting, or how do I serve? So there's so many different ways throughout my day now at this point in my spiritual awakening process that it's not so much a practice that I do; it's a full lifestyle. With many practices and insights and different little treats woven throughout my day,
Mhm.
um, all helping me to maintain the awareness that I am pure consciousness. That
Mhm.
I think is the most where I'm working right now is less about the asana, less about the pranayama, less about the mantra work. It's more about maintaining the knowing within myself that I am that one light of consciousness,
Mhm. Mhm.
and noticing when my mind drifts off into other stories, and that's totally fine, into memory, desire, different things of the ego, but then always coming back to that streamline of I am pure light, pure consciousness, pure bliss, whatever
Mhm.
the knowing is to hold. But
Yeah,
and
no,
that's
I'm
been
sure.
helpful for me.
Yeah, that would be helpful for many people to just be self-aware. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there is a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting thing I read by. I actually read autobiography of Nikola Tesla that he wrote himself,
Mm. Wow.
and he's a very interesting person. But he said, and I was like, hmm, he gives you even advice on. He said, most of diseases and most of things that happen to people is because so much attention is turned outwards and not
Mhm.
enough self-awareness. And what he kind of believed that that anything that happens to you or anything that you see creates some kind of reaction within you. So
Mhm.
he said, just be aware of every single reaction that is happening to you, and that you can save yourself from so many diseases, so many problems.
Yeah.
uh, and I was like, wow, I also take his advice on diet too. He was very
Mm.
particular about what he was eating and how he
Mm.
was eating. He said he was the same weight for 30 years, not even
Mm.
1 pound over or under, nothing. He just had
Mm.
so I like when, but he was basically an atheist. He didn't quite.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Sometimes the atheists are more on point than the most faithful religious people, because even so, a person of faith, generally, depending on their level of esoteric knowledge, but let's say mainstream religion, they're thinking of God as ultimately it's a concept, and that all concepts emerge within the mind. So they're just objects of experience. My understanding of the divine source is beyond all concept, beyond any name that we could come up with, beyond any quality we could come up with. So, in some ways, the atheist who has no concept of the divine, doesn't even entertain it, has a little bit purer perception of the divine source than
that's true.
somebody who has lots of concepts around it and believes that it's somewhere, that, God is somewhere, something, sometime, all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. Where the atheist is
Mhm.
able to hold um, a more
Mhm.
steady focus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's as if he wasn't tainted by all kinds of association and preconceived notions and any of
Yeah.
that. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Yes. The thing is that the spirit doesn't like to be boxed in any way, right? He wants to,
Unboxable.
yes, just free. Don't give me any name. Don't identify me in any way.
Mm. I do love this story though that shows up in a couple different cultures. It's like it's a myth of, that where, that there's this perceived separation from God, yet God at least gives a name I'm going to send you out with nothing, but I'll at least send you some name. And this kind of story shows up with in the Jewish tradition, in some of the Vedic traditions as well. So there's like a few names that are given that we can use to recite and to begin to link our mind with that higher consciousness reality of the supreme source, whatever you want to call it, God, Brahman.
Mm-hmm.
And I've that is another practice that I've actually found to be very helpful, is using the divine name for multiple traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, especially like in something like the Vedic, in the Hindu traditions, there's lots of names that they can refer to them. But finding the joy in reciting those names, finding, what comes alive, what it sparks within me, and then allowing that to grow. Um,
Wow, I want to know more about this because that is something I've heard from different many sources.
mhm.
Yeah, I know they have Hebrew names, right?
Yeah,
That you
many.
repeat. But then when we read Sikh Guru Granth Sahib, the whole book, it's probably like 2,000, 3,000 pages.
Hmm.
It's basically every other sentence will say, go back to the name, recite the name
Hmm.
over
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
over as a way of just connecting with spirit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. There's, well, one thing, depending on the tradition, there's different associations, different thought patterns that are connected with the words themselves. Um, like the way that the word was created with the different letters, that even those letters have a very metaphysical property to them. Even like in the Sanskrit language, certain the way that the words are spoken has different therapeutic qualities depending on where the tongue hits on the teeth and all that kind of stuff, where the vibration is originating in the body. So the names have hidden keys within them that through the reciting begin to open um, different pathways in the body. If you look at the mala, I had this woman I met in Sinai Peninsula a few years ago, an Arabic woman, and bright, shining, flashing eyes, and described the prayer beads that she had made and how she uses 64 names for Allah. And I was like, that's so interesting because I've also heard of this number 64 shows up in its connection to the DNA, that there's certain names that are used that open up different pathways within the genetic signature. They open more capacity for higher light to come in.
Mm.
So I think ultimately as well, like while these names also evoke an inner experience, a direct experience with the pure light within, it's also very important to have practices that are of devotion, that are an external practice as well, so that there isn't this is only false and there's nothing there for me and the truth lives within, but that we can begin to have this dynamic engagement with life. And as we grow in that bhakti and that expression of divine love and devotion, then we start to shine that out into other people. So sitting and practicing, even just sitting and finding a name of the divine from some language that's new to you can be very powerful. Or simply reciting over and over again, love, 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 if you want to use an English word.
Mm.
Um, and just as you're starting to work with the name, then notice what subtly begin to emerge within, and notice what that does to your relationships after you spend those few moments doing that. It's a
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
powerful practice to do.
Yeah, in general, like any mantra works with you. It's like you are playing your own instrument of your own voice and noticing not only the sound that comes out, but the thoughts that it brings up and how it shifts your consciousness. And there's a lot of freedom in there. It doesn't have to be uh,
Yes.
strictly
Hmm.
prescribed. Um, that relationship is with anything, but it's very important to be aware of how you are using the sound current that you have. Hmm. by reciting any of
Yeah,
those words.
yeah, yeah. I think there's such I do want to speak on that, is that this we're at a time right now with such rapid acceleration where there's so much information available to every person. You can go into your phone and tap into any ancient lineage, probably, like, and the practices and the information. But we can also turn that same phone on and see lots of, I'll use the word distorted. It's not the best word, convoluted, just because there's so many different ways that people have interpreted certain teachings or certain words, especially now with, and I have no issue with the word new age, but I think a lot of people have a derogatory kind of that word's being put into strange categories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where because we're not born into lineages and we're taking little bits and pieces from the things that are helpful and meaningful for us, also coupled with, this is what we still have that some of that religious programming in the background that's pushing people to just try so hard to be pure, even if it is coming from the ego, or to be spiritual, or to be divine. Anyway, all that's kind of muddy and messy, and that's just where we are right now, with so much being available and so much connection happening. So I find it very important, for people to also find a teacher who has been doing the practice, or find a few teachers, but definitely have that one good teacher that can very confidently and very skillfully guide you into some of these practices to help you unlock the maximum benefit. I find this often with people that are wanting to meditate, that they turn on some YouTube video. There's plenty of videos out there called meditation on YouTube. Some full spectrum. Some of them are very beginner, and some of them are very advanced. Some of them are done very skillfully, and some of them are not. And so when people go to want to meditate, they do it in a way that's comfortable. So they turn on their YouTube channel and they can do it by themselves. But depending on the quality of that facilitator and the quality of that meditation and the proper guidance that's hopefully given, that person may get discouraged from meditating again because of the state of their mind, because they haven't been told about the mind very much. So I do encourage people to find people like yourself and other people in their community that really know what they're talking about, that have done the work to study, that have been doing the practices themselves,
Yeah.
and then and that's just going to boost the experience so much more, and the confidence and the joy that's able to be achieved from the experience. So
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes people, the reason why they go on and look up all these meditation teachers, because they're looking for something,
they're seeking.
and they're not
Mhm.
sure, right, who is the right one. But sometimes all that's needed is that ask, right? Or they say,
Yeah.
when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Mm.
And when you just say, you know what, I am ready, I really want to. I'm not just learning it because my neighbor is learning it, or my friend, or
Hmm. Hmm.
because it's cool, but because I want to grow and I want to change my life, and then whoever will appear somehow, the
Yeah.
path will come.
I love this point that you're bringing up. I think it's very, very important. I write about it in the book, and somewhere near the beginning. And anyway, but there comes a point. Not everyone's meant to awaken. Not everyone is meant for ascension. And I know you'd asked a little bit about what is ascension. We can get into that in a little
Yes,
bit. But
after that, yes.
yeah, not everyone is meant to go through this rapid acceleration, and that's just as blessed. In fact, some of those people that are staying, um, in their, I'm going to use the word ignorance. In English, it can be kind of a harsh word, but we all have spiritual ignorance. We all have forgotten, our highest expression, but it's coming online again. But some are meant to stay absolutely ignorant so that we can feel within ourselves the contrast and really reaffirm why we're seeking expansion. So someone always needs to play the Judas. Someone needs to
Mhm.
play the Set. It's a very, very important part in the resurrection story. In fact, um, if Judas had never wasn't there, would the resurrection have happened? Would the would this demonstration of eternal life have happened if he hadn't played his part out? So those that are
Yeah.
so there comes a point, the point that I wanted to get to, there comes a point in a person's life after certain things have been worked through, certain experiences have happened, that the inquiry begins. Show me the truth. Lead me. Sometimes that's because life has put huge challenges in front of us in our experience, and it knocks us down to our knees. And it's really at this most humble, low place that we call out, please show me something, guide me, I'm lost. Or it could be something very, very subtle and kind of creep in out of nowhere, where all of a sudden some beautiful experience happens and the spiritual path opens for us. But
Mm-hmm.
often it is through lots of struggle, lots of suffering. But this humbling one's ego enough to ask is a really crucial part of it. In fact, you could even say that you are the gatekeeper to
Mm-hmm.
get on. Your ego is the gatekeeper. Can you ask it to humble itself? Can you humble it just enough to reach for something beyond what is known and what is cool, even what is acceptable culturally, and say,
Mm-hmm.
lead me?
Mm-hmm.
And then follow yourself. And I think that's even more important right now. Um, I wanted to speak to the point of discernment because with so much spiritual information out there, with such an intoxicating expansion happening on the planet with thought, that what is very important is two things: um, discernment. What feels right and good, what feels aligned. And you'll have to understand, is that a fearful thought of mine, or is that really like an internal guidance system? But also because because there's lots of teachers that could do things that are out of greed, out of selfishness, or they haven't really, all that's there. But then also this non-attachment, this is very, very important. It's not for worldly gain. It's that, in fact, the spiritual path can be very lonely at times, because you are inherently turning away from the world and saying that there's ultimate satisfaction can't be found here. This is an inner experience, and so there are going to be times where one must walk that path seemingly by oneself, um, and 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 that's a really important walk to do. And so I want to bring up those 2 points of discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Discrimination, I think, is the better translation from the Vedic words, but and then also non-attachment and really turning one's desires towards that higher path.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a. I think you brought up very beautiful point about um, that the you can say negativity or those whoever we perceive as the other are uh, basically like a bounce board for our own growth. It's like, oh, that's something I don't want, so I'm gonna do my best to go the other way.
Hmm.
Yeah, and playing their part as well. And it's not like our job to turn them around because they actually are helpful in their way. And the life has to have polarity. Otherwise, we would be dead. It would be nothing.
some of
Listen.
and some of the best medicine is the most bitter.
Yeah, yeah.
Gives you the weird taste in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. In Ayurveda, they say, you don't want to eat bitter foods, so then you have to take bitter pills or have bitter
Like that.
experiences.
Yeah.
Um, so, okay, let me ask you about this ascension. Even
Mm-hmm.
your company or your nonprofit organization is called New Earth Ascending.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit, sort of, at the beginning when I was starting, I'm just going to tell you where I am at the
Thank you.
um, I was like, yes, we are ascending new age,
Mm.
Aquarian age,
Mm-hmm.
we are going, and it's gonna be so much better. But now I am feeling more that I'm a little more skeptical, or I, I I don't know, I don't know. So yeah, I'm just saying
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit more skeptical. How do you
Great.
feel
Mm.
about ascension? How do you imagine it? What's gonna happen?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about this question, I want to speak to personal ascension, individual ascension, and I want to speak to collective ascension, and I want to speak to planetary ascension and what that means. And I really wanted, when I was thinking about this interview today, I was thinking about how discredited or how hard it is to believe some of what people are saying. And I totally get it because there's so many outlandish ideas, really fantastical concepts being put out into the by what could be considered New Age people or religious people or prophetic people that are following prophecy and things like this. So I'm going to give a really grounded and clear understanding of what it is, um, and hopefully demystify the experience. So, on a personal level, individual level, the purpose of physical life, and from my perspective, of a human being's life on planet Earth is for ascension. It is the final stage in consciousness evolution for physical beings. In the physical body, we have the ability. Our consciousness has developed enough after being in many different forms, many different lives. We are now at this point where we can then begin to turn our focus instead of extroverted. We can begin what some lineages call involution. The evolution happened as the mind was developing through different forms. The involution process is when the power of that mind is then turned in towards the self, towards the pure consciousness that lives within each and all of us, that is our true nature. So ascension from that perspective is that involution process, or what the Vedic lineages call self-realization, or one could call God realization, nirvana, moksha. Christians call it salvation. This is, from my perspective, individual ascension, to ascend one's consciousness towards the absolute. That those practices, those have been on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. Many masters have walked those paths, have left us keys and books and teachings and practices, many traditions all over the world. So that's personal, individual ascension. Has been here for a long time. Collective ascension is something new. Uh, in a way, I have had some sessions. There are stories of tribes in different cultures that, like the Anasazi, is that the right word? The Mayan, well, the Mayans' ascension was a bit different, but
Oh yeah.
where
Do
entire
you
groups
know
of
something?
people. What's that?
Do you have any information on Mayan
I do.
ascension?
It's in the book. Yeah, about the Mayan people. The word Mayan didn't come up, but my understanding and my feeling from the story is that there was a lead shaman who was a jaguar shapeshifter, and basically that whole civilization shifted when they knew that the colonial people were coming. They had visions, prophecy, all that kind of stuff, that they were taught how to shapeshift into animal form. And so then they merged with the jungle to reemerge at another time.
Oh yeah.
Um,
So it happened?
that's
That's
well,
how
that's
that's
the
how you.
story of this tribe, and I think it could be the Mayan people, but that name was never used. Um, but that's one example of an ascension. What kind of an ascension? What we're going through right now is different in the point that we're at a point in planetary positioning within our galaxy. Like cycles, we have on the Earth, we have day and night, we have the four seasons, but we also have another movement of the planets, actually our entire solar system, that moves around another central point. This is called, in some, the precession of the equinoxes. In the yogic traditions, this is the yugas, where we move through different phases of spiritual enlightenment as an entire civilization, and then it starts to fall asleep. It's about 13,000 years of waking up and 13,000 years of falling asleep. So, and we can look at that. If we look back in our history, we can see those phases playing out. We can see the Dark Ages, we can see at the Renaissance, the spiritual light and thought starting to accelerate and expand, and people starting to become curious about esoterica and the divine. All that starts to emerge. It's like the sun is beginning to shine. It's like morning in our solar system.
Yeah.
So we're at a point right now where there's an acceleration, a graduation point, even a point where we've had these different cycles to incarnate again and again and try things out and to evolve our species to a certain point. Well, like all grades, all school, all different lessons in school, there comes a point where you must practice. You must, do the test. You must show your work. You've got to do your big presentation. And my belief is that this life, this generation, everyone on the planet right now, we are in that presentation of what we've learned over all of our many incarnations. And it takes time. It takes time. Nobody knows the hour or the day or whatever the biblical reference is. It'll come like a thief in the night. That tipping point that really changes so much. But up until now, it's catalyst, 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 catalyst. And those catalysts are going to continue amplifying as collective thought is being brought up for us all to look at. And we can see right now we're so connected through the internet, through media, through so many things. We are one like aware species that's coming to terms with what we've been doing for thousands and thousands of years. And so I think in terms of collective ascension, we're at this point where our species, some of us are going in one direction and then others are going towards the exit sign. And that's not a negative thing at all. In fact, it would probably be better. It will be more enjoyable for them to move towards the exit so that they can shed this mind and shed this body and emerge in something new, something that's fresh, in a new society with um, new systems. And I think that's eventually what we're moving towards. But this generation, I see it as being the big test. Now, in terms of planetary ascension, in my book, in the stories, there's a description of, I mean, the history that I'm using, the cosmology that was given to me through all these different sessions. We're going beyond beginningless time, beyond, 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 and then looking at cosmic galactic planet time that we're looking at in this book. This planet, at a certain point, was in a higher frequency, a higher expression. We find this in different stories and different religious texts from different groups, and that at a certain point there was a fall in consciousness. A lot of people, it's just myth. But during a great cataclysm that happened there, the planet fell in vibration significantly.
Can you go back a little bit because we got
Yeah,
disconnected? Um,
disconnect a little bit.
yeah.
Ask me a
You were
question and
saying
I'll
about
start
the
from there.
planetary well, I want to kind of go back
Yeah,
to
because I
the
could go forever and a million directions.
yeah. Let's go like in depth to this ascension.
Yeah.
So one is um, that this generation is experiencing kind of like a bump or
Mhm.
more accelerated rate,
Yes.
right? So, but what it seemed, as I was saying to me before, it seems like a great thing, ascension, but
Oh
now
yeah.
as we are in it or kind of are going through
Yeah.
these bumps, it's more of it's challenge, right? So
Oh
when
yeah.
someone tells me, oh, there is more ascension, I'm like, okay, there's gonna be more challenge coming up for maybe all of us.
Mhm.
Do you see it that way, or?
Oh yeah. There's everything has to be put on reconciled every and that from a individual level, that's all of our belief systems that are based out of fear, that are based out of limitation, that are based out of duality, negative polarity. All of that's being brought up, and that is being catalyzed by external experiences, relationships with people, global experiences that are happening, all of them activating this deep inner experience that can be used to transform in a positive direction. Or if we're not spiritualizing our emotional experience or our desires, then it can take us into a downward spiral. And it's okay if we go up and down. That's definitely going to happen, like, because there's big stuff that's being looked at and felt within, and big questions, big inquiry happening. But some are going to, just like any other experience, some are going to look at a challenge and think that's going to help me grow. And then somebody else is going to say, I'm cursed.
Mm.
This is always happening to me. It's a different mindset. And right now, that's what I'm seeing on the planet right now, is those two different mindsets are being very clearly, uh, I don't want to say separated, because that feels like a judgment or something like that. But those that are thinking a certain way are connecting with more people that are thinking a certain way, and those that are thinking a different way are connecting more with those that are thinking the other way.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think this process is going to continue for some time. And a lot of people, when they speak about ascension, they just think about the light part. They just think about the expansion, because that's wonderful. But it's through that deep stuff that's being churned up that we're actually able to reclaim that light.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people that are ascension focused can be quite ungrounded and really caught in the airy fairy light kind of stuff. But that's okay. That's where they need to be for this moment. Life will certainly correct perception
Yeah.
as we
Or
move through our
maybe
life.
that will be their experience, right? Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but because they were, you know, the way Ascension was described was that, there's going to be, okay, new Earth,
Yeah.
there's going to be a new dimension,
Mhm.
there's going to be new life. How is that going to happen? How do you see
Mm.
that?
Yeah, I love that question.
Yes, sit in your chair. That's right. Get comfy.
Oh, yeah. So, what has been said to me in through clients and hypnosis sessions is that we have no idea the world that we're about to step into. Um, I can share with you a little bit of my experience that I've had within myself, some preparation for what's to come. So, on a physical level, a few years ago, I had an experience where I was taken into a higher plane of some kind, infinite white light space. I was kneeling at the feet of very tall beings in white robes and was being initiated. There were different things that were being taken out of my energy field and different things put in, like upgrades into my energy field. And this wasn't done, I wasn't physically taken. This is my consciousness was projected into a different space. And while I was there, I was being told why I had to go through certain experiences that I had to go through. And different, very high frequency beings were stepping into my awareness and telling me different things about events that were to come, and that they were installing things into my energy field so that I could attract um, different people, large groups of people in my direction in the future. When I came out of that space, I was back into my body. I don't know how long I had been split off into some other plane, but I had different, I could call them fire letters, different symbols that were rotating around me. I was aware, I heard the term Merkaba in my inner space, and I didn't really know what that meant at the time. Um, so I was aware that I had this other energy field spinning around me, and I looked up at the stars, and the sky was pulsing. I could feel that I was the universe breathing through this body, that that sentience was everywhere, that the stars had consciousness, that the earth, that the elements, that everything was so intimately connected, and that if I wanted to, through my own consciousness, I could direct the elements, I could form things from the soil purely from my thought. I could project myself into another location. They told me this is what we're moving into.
Mm-hmm.
This is the evolution of the human genetic signature, organic evolution. What we're organically evolving into. We don't need someone to poke us, prod us, do anything to alter anything. We just need to nourish the process that's happening right now. Um, I was walking and I felt like there were other people around me, and I felt like, oh my God, I'm being like so egotistical right now, because I was when the weight of everything has been lifted off of your chest, and when one can really feel themselves as universal consciousness in this body, not just a theory or like, oh, that's a pretty concept, but to really have a direct experience of it, we walk like kings and queens, because we are the ruler of all creation. We're the initiator of everything. So I shrunk down because my ego was like, you're being too proud of yourself or something. And I shrunk down, my energy dropped a little bit, and then these beings stepped in again and were like, whoop, like, you're just not used to this level of embodiment in this life. Get used to it. This is what you're moving towards. So that was my first physical experience of having um, of understanding what physically was going to happen. Now, in terms of the
I just
earth,
want to
yeah, go
move
ahead. There's a
for a
lot.
little bit and underline this experience that you have a little bit, because I think it's mostly this is something that I think everybody should just keep in their mind. This is possible for everyone, right?
Everyone.
And you don't need to mm, kind of, yeah, ask, as you said, for whatever help from this person or this computer or this and this.
Yeah.
Like, there is a force, there is prana, there is cosmic force, there is earth force, electromagnetic force that you can fill yourself with,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
be truly yourself in the most amazing form you can ever imagine. Okay, so I just want to make sure that this it's important to have that image, I think, for people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you don't have to belong to any spiritual group, any religious group, any it doesn't matter if you've done terrible, awful, horrible things. Um, that's this evolution is beyond any type of judgmental godhead of some kind. This is about each of us holds the key to this gate. We hold our own key. No one else outside of us, no idea of God has the key. It's really ours to unlock. And we do that through the power of our heart, through love, through compassion. And I'm not talking um, compassion that you do because you want to get something from it. Like, I have to be compassionate because I'm a spiritual person, but really taking the moment to really feel into your heart and to um, open its capacity for loving kindness, and um, and move one's desires beyond just serving the limited self, but to serving all of life. This is the most crucial part of it. I think you'd ask, like, what does somebody need to do and to engage with Ascension, and we're all doing it right now by having these conversations. We do it every time that we forgive somebody. We do it every time that we let go of an old story that really kept us limited or bound in some way. That's what Ascension is. At the most practical level, it's about shedding um, all of those belief systems that tell us that we are nothing, that we are unworthy, that we need to punish somebody, or that somebody, that we stay in that victim mentality or perpetrator mentality.
Hmm.
So, in a very
And
simple
also,
way, it's really through forgiveness and authentic kindness and serving another.
hmm and also in economic sense, it's there is always belief, oh, we don't have enough. There's
Mm-hmm.
something we don't have enough. And
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have this image that you can embody yourself as the universe itself, you will always have enough.
Yeah.
Maybe, the enough will have maybe different definition for you.
Yeah. And also, I do believe that right now we're being trained for a different type of currency in terms, and a different way of working with this abundant universe. Um, Two things. One is just looking at the belief systems that hold somebody in, that perpetuate this experience of not having enough. And that could be self-worth, that could be fear, that could be disempowerment of some kind, lack of self-love. There's a bunch of different ways to look at that, but so those belief systems need to be removed, but also working with our ability to call in what we need, to manifest. Remember how I was saying, like, I had this experience of, like, I could make the dust move, or I could make the wind move, or something. That we need to begin linking ourselves with that consciousness capacity, and that sometimes comes with that often comes with trust and faith and all that, but then also beginning to consciously work with those universal forces and to play with them. So we're all creating that bridge, not only for ourselves, but for the future generations that are coming, um, and for this planet. Every time we begin to work with that inner technology to manifest higher outcomes, to give gratitude for what we are being given so freely. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I could
Yeah.
go on a tangent
Yeah.
about that, but
Yeah. Okay. So I want to make sure that I am not taking over time.
I
How
can
much?
talk for as long as you need. When you feel the end, then we
Okay.
can
All
end.
right.
So
Okay.
I'm
I
not in
just
any
want to make
rush.
sure that you have. Okay. Um. So if we okay, so you describe a lot about the ascension process as it goes through a person.
Hmm.
What is so different about this time as opposed to times in history? Could people experience it in the past?
Mm.
What is so different that we can experience it now, or are
Mm.
opening up that?
Great question. So in the past, we have people like Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus the Christ, that publicly demonstrated the ascension process. We have other masters in different traditions that, upon their death, seem to have mystical events surrounding it where the body shrinks up. We have the different practices in Tibet and in Egypt of going into meditation for months, years, 50, 60, 100 years of meditation. They find these monks, tucked away in caves that are just sitting there, and they say that they're still in samadhi, that they're not dead. They've slowed everything down. Um, so the but what has happened in those past, prior to Yeshua ben Joseph, was that ascension meant that you would leave the body because you didn't and it no longer needed it for the sake of repaying back karma. You'd finished your karma, and so there's a splitting of the light body, the subtle bodies, from the physical body. Um, so I have in this book, there's scenes with a woman that, at the end of her life, she had received that it was time for her to finish. And so she went to a special place in nature, and then in a meditative state, projected her consciousness into her cells and began to spin them faster and faster until all of the cells of her body moved into a frequency range beyond this physical dimension, and she stepped into the higher planes. And this is, I've had a few sessions where instead of just dying, like falling over, that they just move their body into a higher plane. And there's nothing left of the physical body. Yeshua ben Joseph also shows this. I have a scene in the book describing what was actually happening to him once he was in the tomb, what was happening at a cellular level, as he was bringing in an upgrade for the human being
Is it in a
and
book?
for the earth. It's in the book. Yeah, there's incredible stuff about Jesus in there. Just the section on Jesus is going to knock the people's socks off. I might get also some not so happy religious people saying things, but that's okay. I bring my Michael sword in and charge in. But um, what's happening in this life is that we're taking that physical body with us. We're not departing, we're not stepping off. We're actually taking our genetics and we're moving them into a higher frequency range. And that's happening already. We can feel that. If someone looks at a picture of themselves from 10, they've been going through their spiritual awakening process, you look at a picture 10 years ago, the frequency has shifted.
Mm-hmm.
The vibrancy of the skin has shifted, the vibrancy of the eyes. This is where I'm seeing it the most right now, is in the eyes, really flashing eyes from people, from all walks of life, that are doing that deep, deep, deep work inside of themselves. Um, so I think what's different now is that it's not just the sages, it's not just the yoga masters and the Buddhists
Mm,
and the mystical masters. It's the everyday person working at Starbucks experiencing ascension symptoms and or working at McDonald's and beginning to have downloads of higher intelligence. It's
mhm,
everywhere.
mhm,
There's no limit. You don't have to be in the Himalayas to receive this
mhm.
experience now.
Oh, so since I have you here, and I know you specialize in these ascension symptoms a lot,
Mm-hmm.
um, this might be very helpful for people, yeah, because we
Yeah.
all have these experiences and we don't know,
Yes.
like, what is it?
What's going
Why
on?
is it
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
Where do I place it? Do I ignore it? Do I pay attention to it? So
Mm.
let's take a look at it and please tell us few examples of what it could feel like.
Okay. So we have a few different things going on right now. We have solar weather coming in from our beautiful sun. So that could look like solar wind, coronal mass ejections, solar flares. This is plasma coming from our sun that is being guided towards our planet to create an upgrade. The sun systems are like a modem network throughout the universe, and they're sending signals to other suns, other solar systems to upgrade life. So, this is how the divine source evolves its creation. One of the ways is through the sun system, the sun networks. So we have solar energy coming in. We also have, if we look at our Schumann resonances, and that's, you could think of the Schumann resonances, there's four main ones that also correlate to the four main brainwave states of our own mind. So it's like the mind of the earth, if you can think of it that way, and it links up with our own mind as well. So when the Schumann resonance frequencies, I am not a scientist, so I'll try my best to try to explain it. When the amplitude increases within those frequency bandwidths, we can experience a few different things. And I'll start to talk about just ascension symptoms in general. There's also unseen, unmeasurable energy coming in from various sources. I won't get into that, but benevolent sources coming in to also support the evolution. So how that could be experienced on a physical level, you could be achy, you could be tired. Well, that's tired is more of the pranamaya kosha, but you could be achy, you could notice tingles moving through the body. That's also, anyway, I won't get technical. Um, Headaches coming about, feeling very, very tired all of a sudden, or feeling like you can't sleep at night is another one. Um, Having big emotional catharsis, big triggering that happens because as this energy comes in, it's taking, just like any detoxification that you go through at first, it brings up all the stuff comes up to be cleared out. So that's what's happening now. We have cellular memory that's being cleared. We have soul memory that's coming up of other times that need to be reconciled. So in a flash of a second, you could get triggered by something. Now, somebody could blame it on ascension symptoms, and it might be like an energy coming in. But what is it teaching? That's really important to do it, and so that we don't just get triggered all the time and project all of our trauma onto other people, but really take ownership of it and do the work. Um, Higher levels of intuition, higher, very vivid dream states. You could begin to also be having communication with beings beyond this physical earth plane, whether that be through dreams, as all the clairs come online, like clairsentience, clairempathy, claircognizance, clairgustance. There's the different psychic ability cities, as they're called in the Vedic traditions, that are starting to come online for the everyday person. Um, so there's a lot that can be happening. And we don't all experience it at the same time. Sometimes this group will go through something while the other group is not really bothered, and then they switch. That way we're not all going through everything at the same time together. It's really intelligently designed so that, we can hold space for one another as we come to terms with all this stuff that's occurring.
Yeah.
I could talk a little bit about how to nourish the body if that's
Yes,
something.
yes, yes, because that is my question. It's like because lots of people they're like, oh, these are my ascension symptoms. I have a headache. It's going to go away. Well, there is a way to, it's probably just bringing something up that is not aligned, right? So it is important for you to maybe take care of yourself and do something.
Yeah. And yeah, and it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy. Basically, I mean, we're going through such a fast change. This is cellular change that um, would normally take several generations, 1,000 years. We're going through very, very rapid cellular expansion, very fast. So also knowing you need to rest a lot more than what you normally would, and you don't have to make excuses up for being tired. You could be super happy and excited, and then 10 minutes later, like I need to go to sleep right now. Honor that. Um, all the basic yogic advice is still the same. Having a sattvic diet, a really clean diet, a really nourishing diet, not a ton of sugar and all that kind of stuff. Staying plenty hydrated, adding electrolytes to your water, taking silica supplements and cell salts, anything that's going to help and support the cellular recovery is going to be really good. Anything that's going to help with detoxification. So you have daily detoxification, monthly, seasonally, all that kind of stuff. Same stuff. It's really all that yogic advice. There's nothing really different other than maybe a few minerals or supplements to add in here or there, but it's really um,
Silica supplements,
purifying.
what do they
Mhm.
help with?
They help with, because we're moving from a carbon-based body into a crystalline body. So the silica is helping
Another huge
to.
topic that you just introduced.
Yeah, the silica is going to help the tissues of the body transform, because we're transforming into the bodies that we're moving into. This is very physical. This is very, very physical what we're in right now. Then the upgrading system is moving us into a higher light quotient in the field and in the body. So it's going to get lighter, and that's part of that shedding that we're doing of emotional belief system stuff. But then we're pulling in more and more light. That's why you start to see some people literally shining, because there's more energy, that they're more high vibrational energy, more pure. I think sometimes there's a lot of focus on keeping the vibes high, or people talked about high vibes, but I think that sometimes what people really mean, they may not know it, is sattvic, is that purity. It's not necessarily a high vibration, but it is the mind pure, is the body pure, and not like in a religious dogma way, but are we keeping it fortified and clean and pure? That's going to help the vibrations stay high, because someone can be high vibrational and not grounded as well.
Yeah, yeah, because then you can easily crash, and
Yeah,
that's not good. You're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be able to maintain it. Okay, so yes, you did introduce what's the topic of the crystalline body, right? Moving from
Mm-hmm.
the carbon. Um, I I have been noticing, when I do these like neck exercises, that I hear that kind of like cracking, because
Mm-hmm.
I heard it goes straight into your spine. That is the first kind
The energy.
of energy. Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, because
crystalline.
it's coming in through a lot of it's coming in through the crown. That's one of our main access ways of receiving energy from the universe, is through that crown chakra. The other place that people are going to feel it is in the back of the neck at the zeal chakra, right where the occiput is, medulla oblongata. That's just like in the movie The Matrix. That is a main connection point for energy to come in. So we could have tightness right there at the base of the neck, is a really popular, common one. Um, Also coming up through the legs, though, through the earth itself. The earth is also sending it, because this body is made of this earth. So we're an extension of it. We are that bridge between the highest planes and this earth plane. So
Mm.
um, yeah, it can come, and not everyone's going to be the same. So if somebody's looking like, oh, my friend's having all these experiences and I'm not having any, that's okay. That's really okay. That doesn't mean anything wrong is happening. It just, you're composition might be different, or you might be in a different kind of rhythm than somebody else. So
Mhm.
your experience is yours, and
Yeah,
it's appropriate. Yeah.
yeah. Because I do believe it's about what kind of blocks this energy experiences as it moves through the body.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Epsom
that,
salt baths are great. Epsom salt baths are really, really good. Um,
and like you said, it's a, um, this I do have to bring it up because that's
yeah.
something I do all the time, and inspire people to eat better and
Mm,
go through these cleanses. We don't realize like how, because of this ascension process, we
mhm.
need to purify even more. We cannot anymore live in that lifestyle where from 100 years ago, where we would just have mountain of meat and all these acidic things.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not going to support you anymore. Times are changing, and we have to
Yeah.
shift with it as well.
I was told that we'll eventually be moving. We won't, I mean, this might still be 100 years or so, 200 years into the future, but a, a lot of this book, a big section of it is also speaking of future timelines. So people get to see what civilization is going to be like after all this transformation has happened. That is supposedly going to, a lot's going to be happening over these next years, and it's going to look more political and than it is, big miraculous, I don't know, appearances of some kind. It's going to look more like belief systems, social structures. That stuff's going to all be challenged right now because we have a couple different groups, old ancient groups on the planet right now playing for king of the chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see different things playing out with the chess games. um, so that's going to be, while that's happening, we'll have inner experiences, but a lot of it's going to look more like just political unrest.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
there was something I wanted to say about, it doesn't matter. If you can guide
Maybe
me back.
maybe we'll come back to you. Maybe about diet or something.
Yeah,
Um,
the diet. Uh, that eventually we're moving more towards actually not eating, actually, like a lot of food. If anything, it'd be more juices or liquid diets, but we're moving more towards like the breatharian concepts of living off of prana and living off of the nectar, the divine nectar as it comes through. Um, that it's not going to be so food focused. So you may notice that you're eating lighter, more vegetarian styled. It's okay if you're eating some meats and things right now. Eventually, we will evolve beyond that. But I do notice across the board people moving more towards vegetarian, more fresh, alive foods, not things that are in cans and preserved over long periods of time. But
yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. So, so in that way, we can all help this ascension process. You really clarified it for me.
hmm.
Um, I don't really want to talk about whether there are big events coming up or not.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, no,
Maybe
no.
there are. Maybe there.
Subject to change, all of
Right.
it.
Yes. 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 Anyway, and
Just
what can?
penciled in. No ink.
Yeah. But yeah, as long as we probably stay connected and stay in our sattvic spirits, and
Hmm.
we will do just fine, right? And connect with
Yeah.
our spirits. Let's see if I have any other question.
What I want to, you brought up, you said we can help. There's not a single life on this planet right now that is not helping the ascension.
Mm,
There's not a single atom on this planet that is going against what's happening here. Not a single personality either. And like, that'll circle back around to the Judas archetype. Even the ones that seem to be causing us the most issues and the most fear are actually on the other side of this, because we're all divine beings coming in to play physical parts. Even those beings are here with a divine purpose to
mm,
help catalyze massive global transformation. And
Mm-hmm.
some groups, some people have to play that negative polarity. But it's not that only the positive, illuminous meditators are helping. Even the ones that are causing the most heinous acts and the most deep suffering, they're also helping. I
Mm-hmm.
know that can sound really avant-garde, but it's all that one being in many different spectrums playing out so that it can know itself. And sometimes absolute ignorance is the best way to trigger awakening in something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. I believe that every pain that we experience takes us to a little bit deeper healing place. And every evil person shows us, where is that maybe hiding also within
Mm,
us.
mm,
Um, so, what advice would you have for people going into the next, I don't know, 20 years?
mm,
Um,
mm.
how to prepare for the future, where to live,
Mm.
what to do.
Oh, that you are the safest place on this planet. Your body, your own being. I was told that bullets could fly past me, but I will be unharmed. That the earth will shake all around me, but not under my feet. And what I think was being conveyed there is that each person is guided to exactly where they need to be, and nothing can happen to us that is outside of of that divine intention. So, my advice over these next 20 years, I don't even know that we'll actually be in linear time in 20 years. I think we'll be already in a different experience of time. I would say is to keep your mind focused on the fact that you are pure consciousness and that you are the divine love and form, and just keep yourself really close to your heart, and know that all is happening for our benefit, and walk with that faith, because many will have a different type of perspective. It will be doom and gloom. It will be, they'll grab onto the darkness of the experience. This is all a massive ceremony for all of that are ready to claim the truth of who we are as divine beings of light. And sometimes those challenges are going to get quite intense. And if we can just stay in our heart and
Mm-hmm.
stay with our breath
Mm-hmm.
and take each step one at a time and help one another through that passage. I think that's the most important, to really see large amounts of humanity coming together in unity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't forget to sing and don't forget to dance. And
Yes,
that's when you need
yes,
to.
absolutely. Never forget to dance or sing or be joyful together.
Yeah.
That's an energy that when you expand, it goes for a good purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yes, Illumination Codex. It's a
Mm,
wonderful book.
mm,
I would recommend it for anyone, everyone. You
mm,
learn so much. A lot of it, as you said, is these sessions of talking to people in their subconscious state and learning about our future, about our ascension,
mm,
Jesus. Yes, I'm looking forward to reading that.
mm.
Um, and then people can find you on newearthascending.org.
Mm-hmm. .org, yeah, that's our website. That's probably a good central place to send everybody is newearthascending.org. I love emails, so everyone is welcome and invited to send me emails, and you can find me on social media and stuff as well. But if you really want to like make sure you're communicating with me, go to the email, which
Mm-hmm.
is michael@newearthascending.org.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll put the information somewhere on the little note.
Hmm.
Anything else you would like to say
Hmm.
to end with?
Yeah, I just want to send out and call forth a blessing for all people that will hear this transmission, that any struggles that anyone is currently having right now, that they be lifted up so they can see the medicine of this experience from that higher perspective, and that all of us be guided so effortlessly and with such grace and love back into our heart so that we can claim our birthright as divine beings of light. And may we come together in the most poetic and beautiful expression of unity and love,
Mm.
and put down those old stories
Mm.
and write
Thank you.
something new. Yeah.
Mm. Wonderful. Yeah. And people can also book sessions with you, hypnotherapy sessions.
Yeah, I do these hypnosis sessions. I have a short I have a short version of the short 2.5 hours, and I have the full version, which I love so much, which is around 5 hours.
Mm.
And I also do some spiritual life counseling as well. So if people just want to talk and have a conversation and reflection, or be guided into practices or different, I work with so many different types of situations. So um, whether you're a healer that wants to learn new skills, or you're a person just beginning your path and you don't know which way to turn or what's a good source of information, I'm so happy to meet each and
Mhm.
every being. So,
Mhm. Wonderful. Well,
mm.
thank you for enlightening me.
Ah,
And oh,
one
yes.
more thing, and I have, because I forgot that I just did this, I turned the book into about 6 courses, interactive courses. So you can go on, this is on our private social network called source.energy. That's our website address. But you can find all this on the newearthascending.org website. And so there's a meditation course, there's Ascension courses, there's Reiki 1 and 2 for people that want to learn how to lay hands for themselves or to share energy with another. So I do recommend those courses, and they're super cheap for what they are. So
Mhm.
yeah, check those out too.
Okay. Yes. So everybody
Yeah.
then go check that out as well. Learn kinds of exciting things from Michael. All
Mm,
right. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you
yeah,
all
thank
the
you.
best of luck
This is
with the book, with all the courses and life, and with the work you're doing. It's such a important, beautiful, helpful work that I'm sure people appreciate all over the world. Yeah,
hmm,
nice talking to you.
it is my absolute delight. Yeah, thank you so much, Sita, for all that you do and all that you carry, all that you shine out. And it was really so nourishing and sweet to be with you. So thank you
Hmm.
for this experience.
All right, same here. Bye bye. Guys, if you like this content, definitely give me like or comment about your thoughts. And then also go and check out my Patreon. We have daily sadhana, book club, and book reviews, and we have weekly meditations and weekly classes. So check it out.